So we are here at our second introductory Connexus Joy Stream today. And yesterday in our first Intro Connexus webinar, we talked about some basics and some things that facilitators needed to know, or people interested in Connexus needed to know. This Joy Stream today is a little bit different because we're gearing it more towards people that are pastors, that are education directors, small group leaders at your home group or at your church, or the influencers, the agitators, the people that make things happen at your church. And Jim Martini has advised me that he is in fact an instigator and an agitator. That's probably illegal in some countries, but he is alive and thriving here. So we are about to
God bless the USA.
That's right. So we are about to embark. And if you are wondering who in the world Jim Martini is, Jim is the CEO for Life Model Works. Jim has been part of the Shepherd's House Board of Directors for a long time and is now the CEO of Life Model Works. And he is doing an awesome job, I think. So way to go, Jim. So let's talk for a minute. What if your church or your ministry could become a place where community and transformation became an actual normal part of what happens when you get together? What if that gathering of your community was a place where the weak and old, the weak and strong, the young and old, people that are brand new Christians and people that have been in the church for years, those that are stable and those that are struggling, those with lots of joy and those with not much joy. What if all that diversity could come together and experience the kind of joyful character transformation that it seems to all of us that the New Testament church should be about? What if that could happen? And what do you think would happen if that joyful transformation extended to families in your church, to the neighborhoods around you and around your people, to schools, the workplace, communities, and cultures, and spread over the entire earth? Imagine that for a minute. What if joyful character transformation and connections with God and others that were life-giving actually became a part of your churches or your programs or your ministry's DNA? What if that DNA was so strong in your church that it started to change the neighborhood around where you meet and the neighborhood around where your people meet? That is what I call a revolution of hope, and we want to talk in this Joy Stream about how your church can be a part of it, because the change starts with you, and the change starts with your church. One of the things we wrote in the new book Joy Starts Here is that the church is the only organization in the world that is actually called to love other people and to help instigate character transformation all over the earth. I mean, there's no other organization with that kind of job description. That is us. That is who we are to be. What if you and your church could actually be that change? Hopefully today you're going to find out how that can happen. So today we want to answer these questions. What do we mean by a culture of transformation and the transformation zone? And what does your church need to create a transformation zone where lasting character change happens as part of your DNA? How does the Connexus program work and what is different about it? How can your church start? And is training available and easily accessible for you and for your people? So let's go right ahead and get started. Connexus is all about a culture of transformation. Now we'll talk about these in a little bit more detail, but these are laid out clearly in the new book Joy Starts Here. A culture of transformation is a place that has three things that are not usually found together, and that's a joyful, multi-generational community. It is great when 20-somethings or 30-somethings or teens get together and have a good time. But the ability for change to happen within that group is limited, primarily because they need younger people and they need older people at different stages of life who are glad to be with them to help them to mature, to help them to grow into the character of Christ. We need elders. We need people of all different ages who are glad to be together so that a culture of transformation can begin. And we need an Emmanuel lifestyle. That's where Jim Martini walks around throughout his day with an increasing sense of God's presence with him, so that at any point in the day he can connect with God to find out what God might be wanting him to do next, or say to this person, or do with his wife, or do with his children, or do with the board of directors. That's called an Emmanuel lifestyle, because Emmanuel means God with us. And if you read the New Testament, you will discover this is the way Jesus lived. He said, I'm only doing what I'm seeing my Father doing, and I'm only saying what I'm hearing him saying. So that's the kind of lifestyle that a culture of transformation needs. And the last thing we need is training for relationships, relational brain training. Now, sometimes Christians wonder, why are you now talking about my brain? And that question always intrigues me, because I almost get the question like, well, do you have one? I mean, would you want it to actually cooperate with what the Spirit of God wants to do within you? And you can't read through Scripture without discovering God is all about the relationship. I mean, you can start by looking at what Jesus said was the greatest commandment, which was to love in our relationship with God. And the second one is like the first, and that's to love other people. So you get at the core of what Jesus says relationship is about is love. Christianity is all about the relationship. So we increasingly in our culture need training to know how to connect with God in ways that are life-giving, and to connect with others in ways that are life-giving. And more importantly, some of us may know how to connect, but when bad things happen, when emotions get intense or there's relational breaks, we don't know how to repair the break. How many church splits do you know of that were caused when two people got bent out of shape with each other, especially if they're people of influence, and just take people with them when they go? Wouldn't it be better to know, to be trained to not only connect, but to repair relational breaks? Those three things, joyful multi-generational community, and Emmanuel lifestyle, and relational brain training, are all part of a culture of transformation that Connexus is all about. Connexus also puts three things together to create a zone of transformation. That's where people that are weak and people that are strong are together and interacting. It's where everyone learns to have tender regard for their own weakness and the weaknesses of other people. That means we become gentle with the places that we are not perfect and the places that bug us, in us and in other people. And our interactive presence of God maintains peace for everyone. These are the foundations for the entire Connexus program. So why do we need a culture of transformation and a transformation zone? Basically because low joy environments are all around us in families, churches, school, and the workplace. Character transformation is usually frozen. There's not enough change happening, and you don't have to look too terribly far to notice that relationships and people, institutions, organizations are breaking down all around us. The resulting trauma, abuse, addiction, painful relationships, and low joy lives that come from low joy environments always propagate on their own. Jim Wilder uses this example correctly, that if you imagine one pedophile, all the numbers of children that they could potentially abuse in their lifestyle, and the tons of people that all those children are going to impact, that sort of trauma and abuse will propagate low joy environments. It's like dropping a stone in a pond and you just watch the ripples stretch outward. Those things propagate all by themselves without any help. And that means that low joy and all those related issues are then passed on to the next generation. And the new book, Joy Starts Here, gets into this in a whole lot of detail. The problem is the lack of consistent joy and the resulting damage creates environments at home, church, and school that do not produce lasting character change. Without intentional skill training to help grow stronger joy-based relationships with God and others that are necessary for lasting character transformation, low joy environments and issues will always continue to reproduce themselves. It works like this. If I grow up in a low joy environment and I have a low joy lifestyle, I can only give you what I have. So what do I have to give you? A low joy environment and all the skills I have in that environment. Now, if I've got issues related to artificial sources of joy, which we often call addictions, if I have been traumatized, if I've been abused, if I don't really know how to connect in ways that are life-giving with God and others, guess what I will always pass on to you? Entire families, churches, schools, communities are frozen because low joy skills and issues are continually passed on. Connexus training offers the opportunity to change all that, because Connexus training creates the transformation zone and a culture of joyful transformation that will help your church be a place of lasting character change. We can end the thaw that has kept churches and schools and communities, the workplace and families locked up in low joy. It is time for the thaw. So here's our Connexus training flow. Now, if you are a pastor, if you're an influencer in your church, if you're the education director, or if you are a small group leader, I want you to know that the Connexus training flow begins with Joy Starts Here. Joy Starts Here is a study group for everyone in your church. It is designed to be multi-generational. It's designed for the weak and the strong, the young and old, people that are stable, people that are not as stable, people that are high joy, and people that are low joy. It is designed for everyone. And Joy Starts Here is based on the book Joy Starts Here, that we'll go into in a lot of detail in a minute, but it's designed to lay out and explain and describe and engage people in a process that's going to begin creating the transformation zone and a culture of transformation in your church. And the cool thing about leading Joy Starts Here groups is that you do not need me means that it is easily accessible to your church, your ministry, your program, your school, your entire community. It is on your doorstep because change and the transformation zone starts with you, and we have made it so easy for you to get going. We'll explain this more in a little bit. The good news is it doesn't stop there, it gets better. Because in Joy Starts Here, people will begin to realize, you know, I am not as high joy as what I'd really like to be. And other people will realize, you know, I come from a pretty high joy background. Well, for both those groups, we have training modules, 12-week training modules. One is called Restarting, and one is called Forming. Restarting is designed for people that have discovered, as they go through Joy Starts here, that they have lower joy levels, that they just don't have the kind of joy that they really want to have, and that they have some of the issues that are often connected with low joy environments, like trauma, like abuse, like just relationships that seem to not work real well, like trouble when they experience negative emotions or other people experience them, like addictions or attachments to things that are joy substitutes. People that are from higher joy backgrounds or environments, a lot of times they perceive their biggest need is to grow a deeper, more interactive, joy-based relationship with God. And forming is designed to help them do that. Forming is 12 weeks of spiritual formation exercises where every week they engage with God through exercises to help them interact with Him more deeply. The neat thing about this is restarting and forming run simultaneously. So coming out of Joy Starts here, you will want to prepare to lead both these groups. And as we'll mention later, online and live training in person is available for both restarting and for forming. So we're making the training as easily accessible to you as we possibly can. But it gets better. It doesn't stop there. Because after the lower joy people and the higher joy people have completed restarting and forming, both groups go into belonging, which is where lower joy people who are sometimes seen as weaker and higher joy people who are sometimes stronger come together in a joy-based community to learn how to create relationship and a sense of belonging for each other. We'll go into some of the details about belonging in a little bit, but this is where the transformation zone really kicks into high gear, because you now have low joy people, high joy people of all different ages with different kinds of weakness, all interacting together with tender regard for weakness, where Emmanuel Shalom is maintaining peace for everyone. This is high octane transformation zone community, and this is available for your church now, today, to create a culture where character transformation is normal. Jim Martini has created a Steps to Transform Your Church chart. And Jim, I don't know if you want me to explain this or if you'd like to do this.
I can walk through this, and gosh, you know, I feel like we need a little rest cycle here now after the peak of excitement about what happens and what it takes to finally get the weak and the strong together interacting meaningfully with Emmanuel keeping shalom. I mean, it's just so exciting.